guys, this is Wenzes. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about forgiveness, and forgiveness is the holy grail of transformation. It will definitely help you to move on, to step into the next area of your life. And you know, a lot of people, probably you as well, I've definitely been there, where you feel like you stay in the situation over and over again and just time passes. And one of the ways and one of the reasons why this is happening is because we're not able to forgive and let go. You know, move on, let go of the past, and just be willing and open for new things to come into our life. So we really want to get into this because it's important to understand how to forgive somebody who hurt you. Is it really necessary to tell that person to their face? Or is it okay for you to forgive them when you're by yourself? How to forgive yourself for past mistakes? They're all interconnected, because in the end, if somebody hurt you, most of the time it's something that you allowed, and we have to take responsibility for all of this. But no matter what it is, we have to be willing to forgive. But very importantly, forgive does not mean that you have to allow that person to do it again. It does not mean that you say what that person did isn't bad. That's not necessary. And when you forgive, you'll see that most of it happens in your mind. Like, I will never tell you, go up to that person and tell them I'm sorry. It's not necessary. And most importantly, it might not give you the benefit that you want and hope for. Because very often we want the other person to say that they're sorry. We want them to come up to us to say, I'm sorry for what I did to you. This was wrong. Please forgive me. And then we say it's okay. But most of the time that doesn't happen. People do not apologize to us because most of the time, if we are in the situation and it's hard for us to forgive, it's because the person is not willing to see it from your point of view. So what do you do at that moment? You forgive them when you're by yourself. And why do you forgive? You forgive because you're carrying this with you. This is not an emotion that other person has. This is not something that has an effect on their life. You know how they always say, like, not forgiving somebody or holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. That's not what we want. What for? It's just keeping you stuck where you are. And I know this is not easy. I know if things have happened to you and you felt completely out of control, then you can't just forgive like that. It's really, really hard. But you'll see that once you start this process, it will get easier every single day. And so there are a lot of ways where you can forgive. There are cord-cutting exercises. There are things like Ho'oponopono, which is a Hawaiian reconciliation process. And you'll be surprised, it's actually different than what you would think. It's actually you saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. It all is like mind-blowing to me because so that person did me wrong and I'm supposed to forgive them? Exactly, you are. But that point should be something you do out of empowerment. It should not be when you're completely frustrated and you feel powerless and you don't know how to handle it. That's why I'm such a big fan of allowing yourself to be angry. So if you haven't watched the video, after this, watch this video. I'll have it in the cards in the end. But really make sure that you allow yourself to feel anger, to let that anger fuel you, to transform your life and change things. Why would you forgive yourself for allowing yourself to put yourself in the situation? So it doesn't even have to be in a relationship. It can also be that you allowed yourself to go into debt, to allow yourself to neglect yourself, to allow yourself to put yourself in some kind of other struggle. Whatever it is, we have to change our life. We have to change the dynamic. This should not happen again. I don't want to forgive people if I put myself back in the same situation. Because you're not really forgiving yourself or the other person. If you're, for example, in a friendship where your opinions don't matter and it's gotten that far that that person completely forgot your birthday or didn't care about if you felt sick, whatever it is, like that situation should not happen again. Only then it makes real sense to forgive, because forgiveness is really letting go and being vulnerable again. But how can you allow yourself to be vulnerable if that person has hurt you before? How are you supposed to be in that situation, be in that relationship, be in what kind of life circumstance, be completely vulnerable, let go, and not get hurt? You have to protect yourself. Like, I'm not saying you've been hit before, go back and allow yourself to be hit again, because we all want to forgive. That's not possible, and you'll see that you probably won't be able to do that. That's just our mind protecting us. It's protecting us from getting in a situation where we lost complete control. And most of the times it doesn't have to be something as evident as like physical abuse. It can just be you weren't respected, you gave somebody so much power and they didn't treat you the way you wanted to be treated. Whatever it is, we have to change it. So how can you change it? What is going to be different? So let's say you have this friendship dynamic and that friend didn't believe in you. That person just didn't believe in you. They don't believe in what you're doing, where you want to go. And up until this point, you thought that person is your support system. And so, as I said, like in the last video, allow yourself to be angry. Use that fuel. Change your life. Change your life in a way where you say, well, what kind of new dynamic will I have with this person if I'm not dependent on that person's opinion? So what situation would I have to create where it's okay for me to live in that situation, live in this dynamic, live in this reality, and I will not care if that person thinks your ideas suck, if that person thinks that you're stupid or that you're selfish or whatever it is that has been caused by this pain. What kind of situation would you have to be in if you want to be okay with another person not caring that you're being protected? You get to decide this. This is what I mean with changing your reality. This is what I mean with changing your life. And when you start this forgiveness process, you'll see every time you're able to do this, you get to step into this thing one more time, one more step. And if looking at the last 5 years where I've been really honing in on this, in the beginning, it was rather difficult. I was able to make a shift like this maybe once half a year. And then it started happening once every other month. And then it was able to do it like once a day. Like these changes, they can happen naturally all the time. Because guess what? You decide your reality every single second. You decide that your reality right now is the same one as it was 1 second ago. You decide how you look at your friends, how you look at your coworkers, what kind of power you give to them. So once you've gotten into this space, once you change your narrative, once you change your reality and well, no matter what, I'm not going to care what she thinks. I'm not going to care that she doesn't support me because this is where I want to go. And from now on, even if that person stays in my life, like I've done this with family members, I've done this with friends, I've done this with coworkers, and it's okay. It's not like you're abandoning them. You just realize, well, I gave them too much power in this one particular area, and that is something I should have been able to control on my own. You change your mind. You say like, okay, so from now on, I'm going to be a little bit more distant to her. I only allow her to take a step closer to me, to like my real inner core, once she's proven that she protects my boundaries. And how can she prove this? She can only prove this by you navigating her, by you making sure, okay, now I talk more to you. When you say certain things, you see that there's a change in the dynamic. You see that you're not so forthcoming as you were before. You see that maybe you're not even going to call her for 2 weeks. Whatever it is, you make those rules happen because you are now in control. And only then you can really tap into this forgiveness. See, this might be actually rather controversial because you'll see a lot of people say, well, shouldn't you first forgive and then you can move on? Yes, of course. But how often have you not really gone through this? How often have you not really taken yourself out of the situation and you just sat there and said, I forgive that person, I'm all good, we're all, happy. And then the next day, you're back at it again. You get aggravated again. Nothing has changed from the dynamic. So of course, it's best to really forgive. But in order to do that, it helps if you already put yourself in a situation, in a dynamic, you made up your mind how the dynamic is gonna be in the future, and you're not gonna shy away from that. You already decided that. And from that point of empowerment, and you can do this in the end when you're in practice, you can do this within 10 minutes. It's not like you have to do this for weeks and then you can forgive the other person. So change the situation, change the dynamic, change your reality, change the way you see yourself in comparison to that person. Put them a little bit on distance. Even if it's your mom, that you tell her, well, from now on, I really can't talk to you every day. I really want to have that distance. If we talk, then we're going to meet at a coffee shop, whatever it is. I just need to make sure that from now on, you're not that close in my life. And even if that person is right there next to you, like for example, your coworker, you still have the choice of how much do I interact with that person? How intimate do I get with that person when it comes to my thoughts, my feelings? Like that person has to deserve your trust and your vulnerability. So, but once you've gotten there, then you can really forgive. That is the time when the real magic happens. So let's really talk about forgiveness and what great ways there are to do this. So my favorite two things are cord cutting exercise. I think I said in the beginning of the video as well. And lately, I've been doing really great with Hoʻoponopono. I hope I'm saying it right, but pretty much it's I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. So how can you say this to another person? It's really similar to the cord cutting exercise. You'll find, I'm sure after this, you'll find things on YouTube. Cord cutting exercise is just meditation. It's just you sit down and you imagine the other person coming towards you, and then you realize that you're all connected. It's just like an energetic way of looking how it is and how you're all connected, and then letting go of them. There are other meditations where you think about that other person being like a cloud that flows away, whatever it is. All of those things, they really do work. And the Ho'oponopono one is so powerful because you're actually asking for forgiveness from the other person. So let's say you have that friend that doesn't believe in your ideas, your wishes, whoever you want to be. Then you can say to that person, I'm sorry, I'm not the person you want me to be. I'm sorry, I do not represent a life that you want to live. I'm sorry, this causes you pain and anxiety. Please forgive me that the way I live my life contradicts who you want to be in the world. Please forgive me that I cannot be who you want me to be. And this is not like you saying I'm bad or I'm wrong, because you're saying in empowerment. You're not saying, oh, I should be somebody else. I'm so sorry. Like, I wish I should be different, whatever it is. No, that does not mean that I will not take care of my inner child first. That will not mean that I will change the way I live my life. I just recognize that I'm not the person that person would want me to be. And I give that person the right to be right in their own life. Because in their life, I'm wrong. In their life, the way I live my life, the way I understand certain things is selfish. And that's okay. And I just say, from your perspective, I completely understand that. And I'm sorry I'm not that person. I'm not going to try to convince you that my way is right. I just say, I'm sorry that from your life, I cannot be who you want me to be. But that's okay. Like, if that causes you pain, I'm sorry that causes you pain, but that's just who I am. So that's the first part. And then you say, thank you. Thank you for sharing your concerns with me. Thank you for sharing this with me and wanting me to be better, because you just don't feel like this is right and you want to express that. And also thank that person for all the good times you had, for all the times she was there for you, for all the times she did support you, for all the times she did call you and told you that she was proud of you, and for all the great moments you had. Change the narrative. Look at it from perspective of, we're a little bit further away now, like mentally, emotionally, but that does not mean that we can't have a positive interaction. And even if you can't forgive that person in real life because of, that other person wouldn't first off understand it, they would not accept your apology, the dynamic wouldn't change. So you actually just forgiving that person in your mind, and from that moment on, you just don't have a relationship with that person anymore, then still do that. Because on a soul level, you've ended the contract. On a soul level, you really made that happen, what that relationship was supposed to give you. Because all of those emotions that are happening that make you feel so bad, this is within you. Again, this is not what's going on in the other person's mind. They might be really upset about your interaction, but they might not care. They might have a completely different outlook on things, and it really doesn't matter. All of this, also the interaction with the other person, those are two aspects of your mind. This is the way you allowed that person to come into your life. This is the kind of dynamic you allowed. And that's okay. Of course, there are things that are out of our control, but that does not mean that this will be like this in the future. There are certain things we can control, and this is what we're taking care of now. So even if it's, let's say, your mom, your brother, somebody who's really, really close to you, if the dynamic is not helping you, you're an adult. You can change the dynamic. You don't have to stay in this and allow your family to dictate who you are and what you want. But that does not mean that you have to walk around with this anger all the time. That forgiveness it frees up your world. And by doing, for example, the cord cutting exercises to doing the Ho'oponopono, you'll find all of this. Just Google it. Like, it's really not difficult to find these things, but most people do not want to do it because it's hard in the beginning. This is not something where you like say, oh, it's so easy to forgive. Some people like carry things their whole life. And I've been carrying things from my childhood until today. And so it's really important to make those like forgiveness lists daily even. Like really look at the list and then work through it. Like really start forgiving the people that do not have an impact on your life anymore. And the ones who do, like see how can I change the dynamic so I can forgive them. Once you're able to do this, like once you look at this friend in your mind and you realize, I'm sorry, I'm not the person you want me to be. And I thank you so much. And I do love you. I do love you. Whatever it is, you're a human being. I love you. Thank you for all the good times. It's all been good. We're coming to an end. Thank you for getting me into a situation where I was forced to look at where my life is at. And now I get to transform it. And it feels like you're letting go of this pressure that you've been holding on and you're actually carrying within your body. Like this is a fact, like all those emotions we carry in our body, and it's one of the ways why we do get sick, because we carry those deep, hard emotions like in our tissues. You start letting go of it, and before you know it, it's like, I don't know what I was so upset about. I really don't know. And sometimes it will be really funny because you realize, oh, looking back at the conversation we had last week, that made me so mad and I got so aggravated and I answered in a very snotty way. And now I look back at it after I was able to forgive that person in my mind. I look at it and I said, why did that even bother me so much? We underestimate how many of our interactions are based on something that we haven't forgiven yet. And it's a forgiveness practice. It's something you actually have to practice in order to be good at. It will be difficult in the beginning, but it is like this with everything. But once you start, it gets amazing. And I repeat this. This is not something I do once and then everything is good. It's something you can do on a daily basis if it really helps you. Like there are things I really do daily. I meditate daily. I write my goal list daily. I write my gratitude list daily. And I really look into the forgiveness things because it's amazing how easy it can be. And you're not only supposed to forgive others, you're also supposed to forgive yourself. But also again, why forgive yourself if you're not changing anything? Like other people you can forgive and still you're the one who has to change something. You are the one who has to change the dynamic. You can, of course, try to set boundaries and talk to them, but in the end you have to change the dynamic from you. You have to be the one who starts the whole process, the change. And the same thing happens with forgiving yourself. Why forgive yourself for all the sabotage you've done to yourself the last years if you're not going to change anything? Like, what is the point in that? You could forgive yourself if it would work because you say, well, you know, I'm a human being. I make mistakes and it's okay for me to forgive myself. Yes, this is amazing. This is perfect. We're all enough while we're doing all of those mistakes. But if you keep repeating them, then why do you forgive yourself for doing it over and over again? It's okay, for example, if you say, well, I'm somebody who sabotaged myself on a big scale. I forgive myself because I know I'm a human. I know I make mistakes. And now I'm just going to sabotage myself much less likely than this. But still, this is a change in behavior. But if nothing changes, why are you forgiving yourself? You're not really forgiving yourself because if you would forgive yourself, you would protect yourself. Because what we do when we forgive ourselves is we forgive our inner child. So I take a picture of me as a little girl and I really hold it and I say, I'm gonna protect you. I'm gonna make sure this never ever happens to you. And of course I forgive you for not being perfect. Of course I forgive you for getting ourselves into certain situations that were not healthy for us. But you know what you have to really do? You have to forgive two versions of yourself. First off, you have to forgive your little girl because she's the one who needs to be protected by your adult self. The adult self is the one who has to make the hard choices, who has to make sure that she's taken care of, who does the uncomfortable things and changes your life and changes your dynamic so this never ever happens again because you can forgive yourself, as I said, as a little girl for doing all those mistakes. She's allowed to do them. And then you look at your adult self. and you look at what you have been allowing your adult self to do to this little girl. How hard you've been on her. How hard you've made her life by not stepping up for yourself. I forgive that adult self of mine, which is much harder, but I still forgive that. It's like you asking yourself, could I forgive another adult for being mean to a little child? It's really hard to forgive that adult. But that's exactly what you have to do when you forgive yourself. But this only makes sense, and it only goes hand in hand if you commit to now being the adult self who does not do this anymore, who changes your behavior. Because otherwise, your forgiveness doesn't mean anything. You keep doing the same thing over and over again, and forgiveness will not mean what it means. Forgiveness means that I know that you're human. I know that you couldn't do it any better, but you do as good as you know how to. And right now, you know that you can do better. So trust yourself that you can do better. Give yourself the opportunity, chance to do better. You deserve it. Forgive others and forgive yourself, and make sure that you change your life, you change your dynamic. That's how you really move on. If you want to dive deeper into this, definitely watch the video on how to use anger as your fuel. This comes before the forgiveness part. It's really important to use that anger as the fuel for your life, to change it, to really transform it, and then you can really forgive because you have nothing to worry about. You're already in a new state, and all those people can't hurt you anymore because you've already changed the dynamic. Like always, guys, I wish you a wonderful day, a great week, and I talk to you next time. Bye.